So, after nearly 2,000 hours of 3D printing, our Porsche GT3 build, or the GT3D as we like to call it, is really starting to take shape, and I think we can all agree it actually looks like a GT3.
Yep, we started with this Porsche Boxster 986 with the goal of turning it into a GT3 RS using everyday 3D printers. And so far, we've had great success, and this is how it looks now.
In saying that, there are still so many questions left to be answered about this build, and one of the big ones that you guys have been asking is what are we going to do for the headlights and the tail lights? Funnily enough, we do have the 3D printing files for the headlights, but I just don't think that 3D printed headlights would do this build justice. When it comes to 3D printing things like the panels, I absolutely don't mind because I know with a bunch of bodywork they're going to come up amazing, and even things like our hood inlays I'm super happy with, but I just feel they're absolutely not something that we can cheap out on. So I've been shopping on the internet. I searched far and wide and it was quite an adventure. So the headlights for these cars retail somewhere around the $5,500 Australian dollar mark. And it's not that I'm unwilling to pay that price for the headlights. The simple fact is that is just way out of my budget. But while I was searching far and wide on the internet, I came across some headlights on Alibaba.com of all places. And honestly, you're not going to believe what turned up. So I ordered my headlights online. I paid 1,200 Australian dollars for them landed. And after about 7 days, these two boxes turned up on my doorstep. Now, of course, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've already opened one. Of course I have. I was like a kid in a candy shop on Christmas Day, and I wanted to see what our money got for us. But I was super surprised when I found out that I had purchased genuine Porsche headlights from China. Look at these things. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, as you can see here, look, these are made in Austria. They've got the genuine part numbers, and these are actually refurbished Porsche headlights. So that's why I got them at such a good price. Now, the reason I can tell that they're refurbished is because they have like a broken pin over on this side. That's supposed to be the same as this side. So these are clearly headlights that maybe have been in a crash or something. And what they do is they refurbish them, put brand new lenses on them, and then they sell them. Now, I'm definitely not mad at that because we essentially have brand new looking headlights that were well within my budget. Just like our Porsche Boxster is wearing a disguise as a GT3, it's important to mask your identity when you're online. That's where NordVPN comes in handy. One of the most common cybersecurity threats today is something called a man-in-the-middle attack. Basically, when you connect to a public Wi-Fi like airports, cafes, and hotels, someone can intercept your data without you even knowing. Passwords, messages, even your banking details, all up for grabs. And when you're traveling, uploading videos, or even buying parts online, that's the last thing you want. And that's why today's video partner NordVPN has become a part of my everyday setup. I've been using NordVPN both at home and while traveling making videos. It's actually unbelievably simple. Watch this. Simply open the app, click Quick Connect, and you're connected. That's it. One tap and your connection is encrypted and protected from those cyber threats we just talked about. Another awesome feature I love is when you're on the road in different regions, sometimes you can't access the content you want on your streaming platform. But with NordVPN, you simply switch locations and you can watch any of the content you want on your favorite streaming platform. If you want to check it out, go to nordvpn.com/MikeLake. And right now, through that link, every purchase of a 2-year plan gets 4 free months added on top. This creator deal is the best NordVPN has to offer. You cannot get it anywhere else. Again, that's nordvpn.com/MikeLake. On top of all of that, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's completely risk-free. If you're not happy with the product, get your money back within 30 days of signing up. Huge thanks to today's video partner NordVPN. Head to nordvpn.com/MikeLake to take advantage of this awesome deal. Now, back to the build. But the keen Porsche enthusiast will notice straight away that these are not 992 GT3 RS headlights. They are in fact 991.1 headlights. And that is because we can't actually use the LED style headlights in our 3D printed build. Because this is a Porsche Boxster 986, they have an old school wiring system. So as you can see here, they've got your normal wiring system that you would find on most, older style cars. Newer cars run what's called a CAN bus system, which is like a system controlled by ECUs. It's very specific, and the headlights get a certain signal in a certain way that we just cannot replicate in this build. These are xenon style headlights, which means they do have a bulb in them, but we're not actually going to be using any of the Porsche stuff, so we'll be removing all of the wiring and the bulb within this headlight. And the way that we'll work around this is we're buying a full xenon kit off eBay. We'll install that in this headlight, as well as the ballast that controls the bulb that comes with the kit on eBay. So essentially we're using the outer part of the headlight but installing our own components on the inside. Then we can wire them up to the stock Boxster 986 wiring, and we'll have fully working headlights on our normal headlight system, so it all works like stock. I hope that makes sense, but before we get ahead of ourselves, we have to make sure that these headlights actually fit in the holes that we have in our 3D printed guards, because of course we bought these files online and we have no idea whether the scale of the files is actually perfect. So this hole here may not match up to this headlight here. And I have to admit, it's something I've certainly lost sleep over. It's a very weird thing, purchasing headlights. The most expensive headlights I've ever bought, in fact, not knowing whether they're actually going to fit in your car. So the first thing we're going to do is put a piece of wood here so that the headlight doesn't fall through, because the headlight needs something to sit on. I think that's probably somewhere around the right place. We might have to jiggle it around. These things are actually so nice, and I'm not playing this up for YouTube right now. I am genuinely nervous. I've not test fitted this because I want the real reaction on camera. So yeah, if this doesn't fit, it's going to suck big time. All right, here we go. Come on, buddy. No frickin' way. Holy crap, that actually fits like a glove. That is insane. Stay. Isn't that wild? It literally fits like perfectly into our 3D printed shape. That is mind-blowing. There's a couple of wee spots here and there where we just have to kind of sand the plastic down. It might be a bit of a high spot, but like literally fits so well. And look how much just sitting that there completely changes the whole car. That, oh my God. Whew, that is a huge relief. Oh man, the excitement levels are through the roof right now. We also have to remember this guard isn't actually even mounted properly yet. Speaking of mounting, now that we know the headlight fits, the next massive challenge is figuring out exactly how we're gonna mount these things, because the last thing we want is for our genuine Porsche headlights to fall out while we're driving on the road. So I removed the headlight and handed it over to Warwick so he could start fabricating up some brackets. While he was doing that, I jacked the car up into the air and removed the front wheels so I could figure out how we're going to have the headlight mount to the fender. We quickly realized that we could utilize pieces from the old Boxster fenders with a few simple modifications, which would save us a bunch of time. So we cut the piece off the fender, and after a few tries and lots of grinding, we got it to fit nicely. Here's a clip of me telling you how awesome it fits, but being the true YouTube professional that I am, of course I forgot to turn the microphone on. The plan is to weld this bracket back onto the original part that our 3D printed fender is now mounted to. Then we'll need to mount a piece of metal to our 3D printed fender that we can then weld a bracket to on the other side. We're using panel bond and self-tapping screws to mount the piece of metal for now, then we'll fiberglass over that later on down the track. Once that's done, we weld in our new bracket and use a water sprayer to cool the area after welding so we don't melt the plastic fender. So that's officially one side done. I'm so hyped at how factory that looks. Look at that. That's so good. So here's the plate that we welded in here. So now all I have to do is, when we pull this guard off, I'm gonna fiberglass over this metal here to the guard itself. Then of course we can remove these Tech screws and it'll all be one piece, but stoked on that. Now I have to test fit the headlight to make sure that it still fits, because you never know if anything moved while we were welding. So we just have to make sure. This is very difficult to do with one hand. Shuffle it in place, and look at that. We are on, ladies and gentlemen. That is fantastic. So before we go ahead and make the actual bracket that's going to hold that headlight in, we are going to move on to the other side and do exactly the same thing to this guard. I haven't even opened this other headlight, so I want to make sure that it is another genuine Porsche headlight, because I don't know if you've ever bought anything from China before, but there's every chance that one could be genuine and one could just be another random headlight. I think that says do not use a blade to open this headlight. We can use a blade if we're careful. It turns out I had every reason to be worried, as we were missing some parts. Oof, look at that. Made in Austria, just what we want to read. Boom, here we go. Second headlight. And look at that, we are missing this casing right here and right here. So just like I said before, you never really know what you're going to get when you order stuff from China. But that's pretty inconsequential for us with those plates, because I can just make other plates and we can seal these off, because obviously we do not want any moisture getting into our headlights. But the headlight itself looks absolutely fantastic, so very happy. So before I go ahead and do the mount for that headlight, sorry I'm jumping around a little bit, but we're going to permanently mount this panel. So I actually did this on this side, but I did it off camera. I do apologize. But essentially this is now permanently panel bonded to the mount that bolts to our car. But I'm going to show you how we did that on this side. Just a quick disclaimer, this may or may not be the right way to do this. This is just the way that I do it. But bear in mind, I'm not even close to a panel beater, so take this with a grain of salt. So what I've done is we've Tech screwed our panel down to our mount underneath. When I say Tech screws, I mean self-tapping screws. And I've set the panel as close as the widest gap will be. So that is back here, but then up here, because obviously this is 3D printed, so it's not going to be exactly perfect, and we're going to have to kind of finesse our panel gaps. So through here, it is closer, or a little too close, than it is back here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our marker, and again down here I like the panel gap, it's really nice. So it's really only up through the middle here that just needs a little bit taken off, and basically I'm just going to mark where the panel gap starts to get too close. I'm going to go all the way down until our panel gap widens up again, and then I know that that is the spot that I have to take some material off to make a panel gap perfect.
I'm using an angle grinder with a flappy disc to create the gap that we're going for. I know this probably seems really aggressive, but honestly, as a tool, it works really well.
And I've managed to get the gaps now down to where the bonnet is not touching the fender at all. I don't want to go any further than that now, because we're going to take care of that in the bodywork segment of the build, which is much later down the line. The goal is, of course, to get all the panels properly mounted first. In saying that, the panels are lining up much better now. Now the reason that there's a little bit of a gap, like down here for example in the bumper, is because we haven't actually finished mounting the bumper. So down the sides here it's drooping, so when you lift this up, of course all of this closes. But now that we've got this gap sorted, we're going to grab our trusty panel bond, and we're going to panel bond our 3D printed panel to our metal mount here on the body. Also, how awesome is it that the bonnet works with the stock bonnet struts? I am so happy with that.
Discovering panel bond has been a game changer for me. It saves time, adds strength, and lets you join panels cleanly without warping them with heat. If you're building or restoring cars, this stuff is essential.
So that guard is all sealed, lined up, and while we wait for that to dry, we're gonna move on to another job. Woz has cut the piece off our other guard for the headlight, so he's working on that. And while he does that, we're gonna move over here to our door seals. So obviously we're converting this thing from a soft top to a hard top. So previously, where there was no B-pillar, we now have a B-pillar. Well, we don't actually have it yet because we need to make it, but we're going to have a B-pillar. So this is the rubber seal that comes stock on the Boxster, and it ends here. But our new seal now needs to come all the way up here and along our roof line. So if you remember, we replaced our Boxster window in the door with a 997 window. And we need to do the exact same thing with the rubber seals. So I've been shopping online and I've bought some brand new second-hand door seals. Why have I bought second-hand? Well, these door seals are somewhere around $1,000 brand new, and yeah, we don't have that kind of money. Luckily, Porsche owners look after their cars extremely well. And funnily enough, the same car we got the windows out of for our doors, we also bought the door seals. And I didn't even realize it's a GT3. Look at that, we're running GT3 parts in our 3D printed GT3, which is pretty cool. But this is something I'm really excited for, because having the door seals in the car is going to show us exactly where we need to put our B-pillars, because right now we have absolutely no idea. These seals are in awesome condition, which I'm really happy about. So now we need to go ahead and pull out the old door seals. So we've removed the door rubber, but now we need to remove this rubber plasticky strip thing right here. So we're going to use my favorite tool from our SP Tools kit. This tiny ratchet is still by far my favorite. It's so handy. Anything that ratchets and saves us time is a winner. Success! Then we have a couple of rivets that we need to drill out on this piece. Go on. And now we can officially install our 997 GT3 door rubbers, door seals, rubber seals, whatever you want to call them.
You'd think a job like installing a door seal would be easy, but this was way harder than I expected. It was super difficult to get it in the perfect orientation, and then we spent a few hours trying to work out how to adjust and line up our 996 GT3 window with the new door seal.
So let's not pretend like we didn't just spend the last 2 hours fitting that seal and then fiddling around with the height of the window, but it was a useful 2 hours, because look at this. We have the window in with the seal, and it actually all makes... Oh yeah, I forgot that I taped that. Whoops. Dang it. But it all makes a whole lot of sense. So the seal, it fits beautifully all around our door. Comes up here. This is where the B pillar will run, but we wanted to make sure that the window was going to work with this, and that like the position of this, because look how much all of this moves, is so important. So the window isn't quite at the right height just yet, but it's there enough to where we can start working the roof around it. But how cool does that look? It's starting to look kind of like a car now. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to weld a piece in here that's going to kind of mount this front piece of the roof. Essentially, that's the first stage of mounting the whole front of our roof. We're not going to get the whole roof done in this video, but I just wanted to make a start on it. But essentially, we're going to weld a piece of metal in across the whole top of the roof at the exact same curve as the roof, and then this will basically panel bond and sandwich down to that piece of metal so that our curve is exactly the same as the front windscreen. But for now, I'm going to get this locked in place, because as you can see, we've got a body line here, and this essentially will meet up with it perfectly. We just have to make sure that we get the piece of metal on at the exact right angle, and then back here we're going to make a B pillar, and that will hold this out at the right position so that the window is going to come up and meet it perfectly. So that stuff is super important, and that's the stuff that we have to constantly think about when we're building this car.
So I bent up this piece of steel, and I have to admit, I was really nervous welding this onto our roof. Because it's so close to the windscreen, we have to be careful not to warp any of the metal.
So the first part of our roof is officially welded and mounted to the car, and I am super happy with that. It actually wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, this is just kind of tentatively placed there at the moment. Once again, we've used a self-tapping screw to kind of hold the roof in place, because it allows for us to adjust before final mounting the roof using the panel bond. We do still have some gaps to deal with when it comes to the window, but we can finesse that down the line once everything is properly mounted. But fabricating and welding in the B pillar will help that a lot, because it's going to set the roof in place properly so that our window is in the right position. Then all we have to do is set the height of the window, and we should be good to go. So I'm absolutely stoked with how this is coming along. Having the window in the car along with the rubber trim and knowing exactly where we need to make our B pillar now, that is a massive relief, because I have lost sleep over thinking about how this setup works. I guess the one bonus about that taking so long is that the panel bond on our guard is now dry. So that means we can now remove all of the self-tapping screws. And that is great success. So now we can go ahead and put our headlight bracket into our guard, but this aircon line here I feel is definitely going to cause us some issues.
So once again, the car's going back in the air and the wheels are coming back off, so we can slip our new bracket in and tack weld it. Then just like the other side, we panel bond our metal plate in and weld our bracket in. While I was doing all of that, Warwick was making the actual brackets that hold the headlights.
Show us your creation.
So this will actually go onto 3 factory fixing holes on the factory Porsche headlight. We're going to use this to weld a little bracket off that we can put a bolt through, because obviously we need to hold the headlight into the guard, which doesn't have any factory mounting points, so we need to make something to hold it there, especially for the rotation, because the headlight wants to clock a little bit by itself, and that's not where it wants to go, so we need to make something to hold it where it goes. So we're going to weld a little tab off this with a bolt through there, elongated hole, so that we can rotate.
Move it, because the weird shape of the headlights.
Yeah, correct.
So weird. Looks good.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we mounted the brackets to the headlights, and thanks to Waz's amazing work, they fit beautifully.
So we've got our wee tabs made up, so that's these right here. Look at that.
There's a 10mm hole drilled into this piece, so there is obviously some play, right?
Yes.
That's our adjustment, and we're going to weld on the big tab's going to go on this guy here, which you'll note sticks out from the side of the headlight quite a bit.
Yep.
And so in order to get it in, you will actually be able to
Just pivot it in like that.
hook it in around the side.
Yeah, so it'll still fit.
Yeah, to get the tab in and out.
Awesome. And on that tab, by the way, flip it over. We have a captive nut. We love these things. Weld a nut in, and that way you can just bolt your bolt from the other
it's
side.
easy accessible from the back of the guard.
Yes.
Straight in there with a 10mm socket.
Because these Porsches are so well built and so easy to assemble and take apart, we want to make sure that we carry that on with everything that we everything that we make.
It needs to be accessible, especially if you're going to use aftermarket ballast and whatever.
Yes, for real. So now all we need to do is just position that, tack our little bracket on. Oof. So this is what it looks like underneath. And I've actually done a bit of work here on the guard to get the headlight to sit a lot more flush, and we are so close to having it absolutely perfect. The last little bits that we'll need to do will just be a tiny bit of filler when we actually end up doing the bodywork for the car. But if you can see, the headlight's sitting like super flush with everything, which is awesome. But now we just need to weld on these tabs and then we can bolt them in and see what the car looks like properly with both headlights in, which I'm absolutely excited about.
This guy is going to go literally bang bang, 2 welds.
Yep.
Like that.
And then that gives the adjustment in our headlight.
Yeah, a little bit of adjustment, not much, but
that's sick.
Because obviously the light's very, very close to where it wants to go, but...
Yeah, so good. Is that the only mount we're going to have that we need, do you reckon, for the headlight?
No, we're going to make that other little one under the...
Yeah, it's a hook thing. So we're going to use the factory tabs right here on the headlight, and we're actually going to weld a wee bracket that goes over there. So when you slot the headlight in, it'll slot into there, and that will just give it a little bit more reinforcement and hold it in place when we're racing on the track. Surely we have to take this thing on the track someday, because there's so many people online that think that this thing is just going to fall apart like a piece of Lego.
We're so lucky to have someone like Warwick helping us out. Without him, this project wouldn't be anywhere near as far along as it is now.
So after a huge amount of hard work, it is finally time to install our genuine Porsche headlights in the GT3D. I want to give a huge shout out to Woz for the bracketry system that he has done on these headlights. He has really knocked it out of the park. But now it's time to see if they actually work and everything fits as I hope it does. And yes, just for you guys, we are going to remove the plastic seal on the headlights for the reveal.
Here we go, moment of truth.
All right, so far so good. Ooh. All right, that slipped in like a glove. Good start. All right. So under here, as you can see, this is where the bolt goes in. Very, very simple. It's actually crazy how easy that is. Of course, I've still got to fiberglass over this bracket when we do the final fiberglassing of these panels.
One final tighten of the ratchet and we're done.
And that is one headlight locked out and ready to go. Headlight number 2 going in. That is much better. Just like that. Oh my God, take a look at that. That is looking insane. But before we pull the plastic seal off, I'm gonna throw the wheels on and get it on the ground for the final reveal. Ooh. Now for the satisfying part. Ooh, oh my God, that is so good. Oof, jeez, that is way too clean for this car. Yes. Are you ready? Oh my God. Look at it, guys. That has just completely transformed the whole car. I'm honestly speechless right now. That is just so much better than I could have imagined.
And just like that, it's alive. These headlights aren't just bolted on, they've completely changed the way this whole car feels. It's got that real Porsche vibe about it now. We're nowhere near finished, but it's moments like this that makes the whole journey worth it. And thank you for tagging along with me. If you feel like hitting that subscribe button, it really helps. The best chapters of this build are still ahead of us.
The headlights paired up with the window being installed and everything, it's starting to look so complete. It was a huge huge risk of buying these headlights and not really knowing what was going to show up, but I'm absolutely satisfied with my purchase. So we did manage to get the headlights fitting like fairly well. There's only a little bit more finessing if you look really closely, and that'll be done with bodywork. It's more just like getting the line around here like absolutely perfect, but that'll be quite easy. I didn't realize that we would get them to fit this snug and this well just straight off the bat. The same with this side as well. So there's not a huge amount. You can't probably really see it on camera. Like there's just a tiny gap like right here that'll need to be filled, but they really fit so much better than I could have expected. And that is a huge job ticked off our list on the GT3D build. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. We're doing a video a week from here on out, right up until New Year's Day. I know a bunch of you guys are super keen for the content, but yeah, let me know what you think of the headlights in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. I'm gonna get back to work. Got more work to do. Got another video to make. Peace. Bye. Headlights, baby.